Hello and welcome to our live webcast, The Cost of Delaying System Upgrades. Thank you for joining us. My name is Kurt and I'll be the operator for the presentation today. Before we get started, I would like to take a moment to acquaint you with a few features of this web event technology. At any time, you may adjust your audio using any computer or device volume settings that you have available. On the right-hand side of the screen, you will see the Q&A window. There is a large window which holds your sent messages and a smaller text box at the bottom where you can type in your questions or comments for the presenter. To send in a question or comment, simply click in the smaller text box, type in your text. When you're finished, click the send button or press enter. All questions that you submit are only seen by today's presentation team. Your questions will be responded to in the order in which they were received. It's now my pleasure to introduce the folks who will do an introduction of today's presenter, and for that, I'll turn it to the marketing team for Zycus. Welcome to the program.
Hi, this is Paulami and I'm from Zycus. I would like to first introduce Zycus. Zycus is a leading global provider of complete source-to-pay suite of procurement performance solutions. Our comprehensive product portfolio includes application for both the strategic and the operational aspects of procurement. Some of our products are e-procurement, e-invoicing, spend analysis, e-sourcing, contract management, supplier management, project management, request management, and financial saving management. For today's webinar, we have our speaker, Bill Michaels, who is the CEO at Airpart Consulting. Bill has a lot of procurement experience, and he's a leading expert in purchasing and supply chain management. He's currently the CEO and founder of Airpart Consulting after more than 23 years at ADR North America. He's now working in a new book focused in the area of supplier relationship management, and he has CPSM, CPM, and FCIPS certifications. He's also on the board of directors of the Joe Necro Foundation. Over to you, Bill.
Okay, thank you very much. You know, this is a great time to be talking about systems. In my career, I put in 4 or 5 major systems in corporate life, and all of them were very, very important, and we needed all of them. But I can honestly say, in today's environment, as we start to see digital disruption, it's an imperative to put in your systems and align with the supply chain, because the changes that are coming are very rapid and very quick. So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk a little bit about megatrends, what's happening. We're going to talk a little bit about digital disruption and, you know, where has purchasing come and then where is it going to go. And then we're going to look at the integration of the supply chain, what's happening there. And then we're going to talk a little bit about what happens if you don't delay your systems and what's the impact on your business and how could you be at a significant competitive disadvantage by not upgrading. And we'll talk about the cost of upgrading, which is something that's very, very important to many companies. So I show this slide a lot, and it's really saying that over the last decade and a half, there's been a lot of changes as we move from price management to cost management to really strategic sourcing and category management. But as we move forward, it's very, very important that we get value from our supply chains. Our supply chains will start to align, and as they start to align, the systems will start to integrate, and we need things like speed to market, innovation, revenue growth, product updates, all kinds of things from our suppliers. So, you know, while we've moved very quickly in terms of evolution over the last 10, 15 years, we can honestly say that in the last 5 years, we've grown almost twice as much as we have in the first 100 years. So lots and lots of changes to the procurement side of the business. So what's really influencing changes that are going to impact us and continue to impact us? Well, the first thing is we do have digital disruption, and when we think about it from the supply chain side, we're starting to see automation in the planning side and supply chain side of the business. We're starting to see artificial intelligence come into the business. We're starting to see lots and lots of things like dynamic pricing on terms, and we're seeing dynamic pricing from suppliers, and we're starting to see bots work on customer service applications that we may not even know when we're getting these emails. They may be coming from a bot. So we're seeing lots of change in terms of digital disruption. We're also seeing globalization. So we're really kind of moving to a global economy and a global business environment, and we have been for quite a while. Customers that we have are demanding much more value. They want increased speed. They want more products. They want more services. They're trying to combine things with master service providers. We're starting to see industry redefined. We're seeing, in Japan, there's a plant that builds where robots build robots, and they don't have any human intervention for at least 30 days while the robots are being built. We're starting to see changes in our demographics, which are changing the way that we work. We're seeing changes in new programs one of the biggest disruptors is Walmart and Amazon. When you can instant gratification. I order something in Phoenix today, and I want it in 3 hours. It's going to be at my house in 3 hours. So we're starting to see, networks of suppliers all over the globe changing. We're starting to see increased understanding and capability about managing the planet in terms of social, political, environmental areas of spend. And again, the demographics are changing. So we're starting to see a lot of influences. And I bring this up now because it's going to impact your decisions on systems. So, as we start to see all these changes in our environment, our systems are going to have to change with those environmental changes. So disruption is fundamentally changing the work world. It's changing everything we do. Today's business, government, and individuals are all responding to shifts that are happening, and they would have seemed unimaginable a few years ago. I could not have believed that my calendar would show up on my watch, or that my watch would even act like a phone, or that we'd be having driverless cars, or that I can think of a time where robots in a warehouse will pick all the stock, put it on a driverless truck, and get it to the warehouse. So we're really in the actually early days of disruption. And what the implication is that if our systems are not capable of coping as the world changes, then we're really going to be at competitive disadvantage, almost to the peril of the company. So I think that's kind of interesting. So when I think about looking forward and looking at what's happening, we're starting to see work that's been done by humans for years and years and years being replaced. So let's take procurement, for instance, okay, and I'll just give you a quick example. A while ago, I had a friend named Clive Heel who told me, hey, I think I'm going to build a computer with artificial intelligence that will search the internet for all the suppliers in the world, be able to develop an RFI, have learning capability, be able to take that RFI into an RFP, and be able to move it along. Well, people like Joe Yakura and other people are working on those projects right now. So we're actually seeing a migration to machines. And that migration to machines is going to take away most of the transactional activity we've done in the past. But our job will get more important as we go along, and our systems will become more important as well. So I just talked about the example where AI can search for suppliers, and then we could have orders automatically released to manufacturing. The robots will pick the stock. We probably will have no more forecasting or inventory planning or anything, because you'll have integrated linked suppliers, and along those supplier links, you'll have the Internet of Things. The Internet of Things will forecast requirements, forecast demand, actual real-time demand, and it'll automatically hit the planning systems and will automatically plan. Then we'll automatically manufacture. We'll have robots picking the stock. Logistics will take over. We'll probably get the stuff with driverless trucks. So, big changes as we look at what's happening. So I talk a lot about the integrated supply chain, but we've had a lot of rationalization and consolidation of suppliers in our supply chain. And if you haven't been exposed to that as a procurement professional, it's happening. So we're starting to see the automated integration. And the kind of thing that's interesting is as you integrate your supply chain, you move them from very competitive environments to more strategic environments. So you're starting to see the planning. We're seeing competing supply chains now. competing tied supply chains. And what that really is if you look at the automotive industry, the Koreans have a supply chain, the Japanese have a supply chain, the Europeans have a supply chain, the U.S. domestics have a supply chain, and they're starting to actually support those individual businesses and get in there. The other thing, too, is as we build when you select a supplier now, you're not just selecting a supplier for a product, you're actually starting to architect the whole supply chain. And one of the key elements of architecting that supply chain is getting business alignment across the suppliers. So we're going to see integrated business systems, and then we're likely to see blockchain technology. And if you haven't heard about blockchain technology, a blockchain is going to be the way that we do finance in the future. And we're going to use digital currency, and a blockchain is really a series of blocks. So when a record's created, it's out there, open, transparent, and it really can't be changed. So we'll kind of have ledgers on a blockchain, and then we'll also be able to use digital currency. So that's going to change the way we work and the way our P2P systems work. And we're all going to be linked with the Internet of Things technology and digital automation. So we're really moving along a different path than we ever have. And the reason I bring this up on this presentation is I think it's very important to understand how important upgrading your systems are, because if you're in a spreadsheet-based system or a patched-up old system, you will not be able to compete in the environment in the future. And we'll get into that in a little bit more detail as the program progresses. So, when we look at an integrated supply chain, it's kind of great because we have communications, demand management, information about customers' demand almost instantaneously. We can be very flexible. We can be agile. We already know what we're going to have to do. We know when the units are sold, and we're driving it. And we can eliminate waste, productivity, lots and lots of human work, and we can get a supply chain that's aligned that delivers lots of profits. I experienced this. I was working with a company, and they were having a lot of problems with their system. In fact, they were missing delivery and fill rates to some of the large retailers. The large retailers don't like it. They actually give you times when your product has to arrive and within windows of an hour, right? Now, they were having these fill rate problems and got a huge fine. But the problem was that the retailer was giving them every sale out of every store every day. And the retailer was in the mindset, I tell you what I used, you knew what you sent. Theoretically, you should have been able to plan my consumption because you've got the rated consumption and the inventory that I started with. And the retailer was right. Unfortunately, the client did not have the systems to be able to do that. And what it took was integrating a forecasting system with that point-of-sale data to be able to automatically predict the demand. So again, if that company had not made that shift, it would probably not be in business today. I mentioned globalization, but it's kind of interesting because we've kind of merged our economies, we've merged our industries, we've merged our markets, our cultures, our language. I mean, the business language is English all over the globe. National and regional cultures are becoming integrated. Immigration and migration and transportation are becoming integrated. And we're really driving with one economy now, whereas in the past we had multiple economies and multiple impacts. So we're going to be impacted by globalization. Our customers have huge demands. They want speed to market. They want innovation. They want process improvement. They want cost reduction. They want cost containment. They want infinite supply flexibility, shorter license. When I was first in business and we had a phone, the phone would last 10 years, 20 years. And today, if my phone lasts me 2 years, I'm lucky. So the life cycles are so much shorter, so much quicker. By the time you introduce a new product, you've got to be already halfway through the next generation. And that's critical. Our customers want sustainability, corporate responsibility, corporate social responsibility, They want to audit the supply chain and make sure we don't have any social issues like human trafficking or slavery. And, we've seen that in many industries. So we've seen it in the fishing industry, the food industry, the coffee industry, the apparel industry, construction industry. And we have to have a way of understanding all those suppliers in the chain, really auditing all those suppliers, because social responsibility is really a shared supply chain responsibility. Our customers want us to make capital investments. They want specification change continually. They want us to improve our materials, lower the cost, and bring in extra services. So they want too much, but they want that value contribution that we mentioned earlier in the seminar. What does the CEO want? The CEO wants his product to market faster. If I've got a better phone or if I've got a new pharmaceutical drug that I want to get to the market, the first person in the market wins the market share. And so speed to market is critical. Those short life cycles are impacting the CEO's attitude. Those instant deliveries from Amazon are impacting consumers. So we really want to think about, what's happening. The CEO wants a supply chain that's aligned to the business plan, so the business strategy goes across. And that CEO is expecting that procurement will deliver and contribute to revenue growth. And that's becoming a key metric for CEOs on the CPO's performance levels. Right? So corporate business strategies are always it's really one of the models changing. So it's cost and value improving, adapting to the environment, continuously adapting to changes in the environment, product service offering, continue to offer new products and link them with services that bring in more profit, always rebalancing the portfolio, getting rid of those businesses that don't fit and bringing in new businesses that do, and growing through organic growth or M&A. Again, I'm only kind of setting the stage for why we need to upgrade and why it's going to cost us a lot of money if we don't, and could impact our strategy long term. So the problem is we have continuous flows of information. So we've got increased revenue, and we want a direct connection to marketing our customer. We've got these marketing connections all over the place. I always find it amazing that I look for something on the internet, and then when I open my Facebook account, I've got 10 ads from different companies for the thing I was looking at. And that happens almost instantaneously. The big data thing is we've got all these systems sorting through that big data just to find out what I'm looking for, and then have marketing systems that are trying to sell me exactly what I want to see. All back to speed to market. So we've got to improve our margins, increase our costs, increase our R&D efforts. We need to get greater efficiencies. We need to think about increasing the value from suppliers, and we need to think about being effective on a geographic basis and really trying to drive proactively across multiple geographies, understanding where the low cost is, where's the automation coming from, who's investing capital, what's happening in that market. And then I think the other thing we have to keep a handle on is risk management. I had a client once that asked me to do a risk management strategy, and what that client wanted was a predictive model over which suppliers were going to cause a risk over the next 10 years, and it required a lot of work. But this particular company had $250 million in spend that was generating $7 billion in profit. So management never wanted the supply chain to shut down, and it required that we had a very good cross-functional analysis program, that we were able to capture all the risks that are out there in the supply chain through an RFI, and that we're able to sort down those risks and nail them down to which suppliers are going to have a problem, when is that problem likely to occur. And I think we're getting more and more analytical about our supply chains. So what's transforming our supply chain? Well, we are transforming the supply chain with robotics and automation. We've got autonomous vehicles, augmented reality. We've got simulations with augmented reality now. Adaptive manufacturing. Blockchain is certainly something, if you don't know about it, it would be worth your time and effort and energy to do a lot of research on blockchain. Integrated control towers, advanced analytics, intelligent, adaptive algorithms all the time, adapting. It's kind of interesting. It can be as simple as a vending machine selling a soda. They put thermometers in those things, and when the heat goes over a certain amount, the price is dynamically changed. So we're seeing adaptive systems and algorithms all the time. The airlines have a great example of adaptive algorithms. And recently I went to a customer who was adapting algorithms on the area terms. So no longer do they force a supplier to take 120-day terms or 90-day terms, but they had these algorithms that said how many days you want to get paid in, and the algorithm would generate a discount level. All right, so if the customer really wanted the discount, they would understand what discount, or wanted the payment in cash. They would understand what discount it needed to do, and that algorithm was set up to continually move around. And then the other thing is cybersecurity. I mean, we should all think about cybersecurity and put the language in our contracts that we need to. I did a blog on that, and I think most companies are unprotected when it comes to cybersecurity from their suppliers. So the supply chain and procurement are really strategic drivers of the business, right? And they're charged with reducing operating costs, reducing risk, getting a more flexible, agile supply chain that can change on a dime and deliver value, building digital transformation across the supply chain, really getting good on the P2P process. I got to tell you, as we start to automate, the P2P process is critical along with the planning system. So if you don't have a good P2P, you're going to fail. And tapping the culture for supplier innovation. That's the strategic levers that we have. And as you can see, many of them are all system related. All right, so enough of the future. I think I've delivered a good enough opportunity to look at what is the future and how does it look. Well, let's look at legacy systems. I go to companies all the time and I see these legacy systems. On the smaller companies, I see, systems like Microsoft Dynamics, which depends on, user input to be able to get the data out. I see old systems that haven't changed. So we do have legacy systems. Some of us have old SAP systems or Oracle systems that are inflexible and rigid. They've been really built for business conditions at the time they were implemented. So you really can't take advantage of dynamic pricing or supplier terms. There's a heavy transactional burden on a lot of these legacy systems. A lot of these legacy systems have data that produce error. They're redundant information, tend to be inefficient. Some businesses go abort the legacy system and go to spreadsheet-driven businesses. And then that's kind of interesting because it depends on who you ask what answer you're going to get. And it always frustrates the CEOs and CFOs on those businesses. You got some businesses incapable of, or some systems that are incapable of adapting to the new speed of business, and a lot of the old legacy systems are people dependent. So what are we going to see in the future? We're going to see virtual supplier enablement. Suppliers can go in, put their invoices in, check their invoices, fix their invoices. It's really going to be a sort of self-managed, vendor-enabled business system, and some of those systems are out there today. I know Zycus runs a few of those as well. Many-to-many supplier networks, integrated planning networks using IoT, and AI managing procurement transactions. So we're going to go to an automated state. And so if you start to think about how the legacy systems are working and you start to think about what's going to be required in the future, you can see there's a huge gap. So where do we go now? I mean, I started looking at, who's pretty good at thinking about the future. And, I came up with this H.G. Wells quote that said, "Adapt or perish. Now as ever is nature's inexplorable." And then the other guy, of course, was evolution Darwin. It's not the strongest of the species that survives, nor is it the intelligent that survives. It's the one that's most adaptable to change. And so I think that says a lot about where are we in terms of systems evolution and where systems have to go. Okay, so what happens? What happens when you do upgrade? Well, today it's not as hard as it used to be. I said I put in 5 systems, and it was mega hard because you had these fixed systems. You had so much resource that had to do so many things to kind of emulate the current business process. You had lots of changes to make, and it required lots and lots of IT resources. But today, you can go to a cloud solution, and you can quickly. I've seen people get up on systems as soon as 6 or 8 weeks, right? By going to the cloud, taking the data, putting it in the cloud, and then dropping it back down into a legacy system. So I think that the speed and resources required to upgrade is not what it used to be. And I think that there are plenty of opportunities to use cloud-based technology to upgrade, get your systems running now, and get security and be able to drive your business, your current business system with a cloud add-on. It enables you to have advanced technology and a streamlined process. In the old days, people wouldn't change unless you matched their business process. But today, it's a lot easier to just have the data go into the system and then be able to get the data back out. And it doesn't really take that much, and it eliminates a lot of waste and reduce errors. It lets you reallocate or reduce staff because, to be honest with you, a lot of these transactions are going to go away. And so people say to me, well, if all these things are going to go away, what's my job going to be in the procurement side? Well, it's going to be supplier relationship management. It's going to be supplier integration. It's going to be driving the supply chain for cost and value. It's going to be spreading that value across the chain and paying each supplier for what that value does. It's going to be working in digital currency. It's going to be the more strategic part of the job that many procurement professionals always wanted. I think you need to integrate with customers and suppliers, so you need to bring that whole piece together, and you're able to do that with an upgrade. And a lot of times you can't do it with standalone systems. You need to increase analytics and metrics. That's going to be a key issue as we go along. And it'll overall reduce cost. It'll reduce cost, increase value, and reduce risk. So there's a lot of positives that occur when you're upgrading. One of the key issues is what happens when you don't upgrade. All right, so you're going to increase the competitive disadvantage to competitors who have upgraded. So if someone else is moving along and they're able to get that speed, that flexibility out of the supply chain, your company will be at competitive disadvantage, right? You'll also maintain a company of inefficiency, waste, lots of duplication, lots of errors, and old technology. You'll fall. If you don't upgrade, you'll fall farther behind in the technology. And if you think the cost of upgrading now is high, if you fall so far behind, the costs are only going to increase. They're not going to get better. And you're going to miss the opportunity to be able to do effective expenditure analysis and understand that supply base and understand where the capabilities are, going global, using technology, different technologies like auctions or, e-procurement. Those are going to be missed opportunities. Yeah, you're going to maintain subjective. One of the things that I have to say that's different now than in the old days is a lot of times you could make subjective judgments about sourcing, but today you need fact-based. I can't go in front of the CEO now, even in the consulting business with a program, and not have the facts behind me, because if I do, I'm going to look like a jerk. And I don't want to do that. So I want to have the facts. I want to do fact-based decisions. I don't want to do subjective gut feel decisions. And I know that that's a big change. There's going to be missed opportunities to get cost and incremental value from the supply chain. And you'll overstaff and have manual effort and slow processes. So, again, you'll probably be at competitive disadvantage if you fail to upgrade. So there's a lot of reasons why people don't upgrade their systems, and I just thought of four, but I think there's probably more, but it's a purchasing legacy history of functional departments. So the department's always done things this way. You've got people that only look at from one perspective rather than a strategic perspective. So they like to be functional, they like to be tactical, they like to be transactional, and we want to remove that and really move to a strategic view. I don't want to be involved in keeping a paperwork legacy together or just a transactional paperwork legacy together. The other thing is sticker shock. So someone will look at a system and say, "Well, that's a lot of money," and they'll kind of delay the investment upgrades until the systems are unusable. And then when they're unusable, the system is horrible. In fact, I went into one organization where they hadn't made an investment in over 10 years, and it was a huge investment to get back to even a normal state. A lot of times they can't justify the ROI, and ROI is a funny thing because in the old days when I had to do systems, I had to tell them how many people come out. When you look at the future of AI and IoT, people are going to come out, but that's not the reason for justifying the system. Not because you're going to get payback. It's because you're going to be able to keep up with competitive parity. You won't be held at competitive disadvantage. And so it's very hard to make the argument on people, but it's very easy to say, here's the detriment to the company and to you if we don't upgrade. So I think that's a key. And then the other reason why companies don't upgrade, and I've been in a couple of these companies, and I've seen a couple of my clients that are like this, is that they've made so many patches to the system, they can't even take an upgrade, right? Because the thing will come crashing down, and they're 10 versions behind in the software because they have put all these band-aids and counter systems on the system and patches, and they just can't update them to the new software, and they can't update to the new software because of the patches. And that's a sad state of affairs when your business is in that kind of condition. So, reasons I think that would prevent you from not upgrading would be purchasing is responsible for over 60% of the cost of goods in most companies. And just a simple 5% reduction will be millions of dollars to the bottom line. So you will offset any cost of a system with an upgrade, because over time you've got so much responsibility for keeping that product cost in line and driving the product cost. And if we took a 10-year average on what the benefits would be on cost savings versus what the cost of a system would be for a system upgrade, you would find that you could easily justify the system with the productivity and cost and value improvements you're going to make. The other thing is the cost of upgrading in the short term will be less than the loss of a failure to adapt to the digital disruption. It's coming. We can't stop it. It's moving very, very quickly. And if you don't adjust to it, you're going to fall behind and your business may not survive. The failure to be able to adapt to a catastrophic risk is incredible, right? So you'll be able to adapt to the risks, understand the risks, see the risks, and even maybe have a global risk process. So the Band-Aids, well, if you keep putting Band-Aids on, it's not going to help you in the long term. It's not going to help one bit. All right, so the resource requirements, though. Because the one thing you'll get is, well, we don't have enough resources to put in a procurement system. And my view is, I don't believe that, because you can get temporary labor, you can hire a master service provider that will let you do that. It would be you can get consultants to help. You can certainly drive an opportunity to take the resource externally. It's a short-term resource. You only need it for the implementation of the project. And, with the cloud-based technology, it's not as significant as it used to be. So the resource is pretty easy piece to work with, but you have to have an organization that's willing to do it. Things to consider. Okay, as we look forward, we want to look at the integration and platform models that are replacing standalone approaches. So we've got a big opportunity to take a standalone model and integrate it with our current system. Even if our current system is a legacy system, we can actually be operating on a new procurement system complete and feed the data back into the legacy system. The cloud models keep advancing, so they're not resource intense, and they continue to advance, and they upgrade, and they don't have band-aids on them, and you can adapt to the technology very quickly. So that's another thing to consider. Supply analytics, incorporate working capital, supply chain. You got to have analytics, right? You can no longer make subjective decisions. They've got to be on analytics, and you can configure and customize the software really quickly because they're virtually across many industries, many companies, and they've been made flexible. Another thing to consider is how are you going to adapt to machine learning and artificial intelligence, the connectivity across the supply chain, managing the payment process with the blockchain technology, and collaboration. So those are all collaboration with us internally and externally. So those are all kinds of things to consider as we're moving to new technology. So I tried to put together a list here of things that you need to do when you think about cost. All right, when you're looking at the cost of delaying this software process, all right, the cost of lifetime profitability. So what do you lose by not meeting deliverables and value propositions from a software upgrade? What do you lose by not optimizing your suppliers or your benefit or even driving your cost and value improvements? The impact of competition will lose some competitive advantage and potentially market share by not upgrading. And what's the cost of the loss of market share or not even being competitive or not even being able to align to suppliers? The ability to find and manage all of the company's expenditure. I can't tell you how many times I go there and people have no idea what their expenditure is. In fact, I went to one company where they had they were just put together and spun off from another company. They had 25 systems, and they had no idea what their indirect spend was. It happened to be $1 billion, and their direct spend was over $3 billion. And they had no idea what that spend was. They had to go through 25 systems, kind of link them together, and they didn't have time to link them together. And they didn't. And that was a case where they patched them with a database, and they didn't implement a new system. The forecast of the strategic plans will be missed by not having software upgrades is a critical part too. And how much revenue will you lose because you don't have linkages into those supply chains and you're not linking into the best opportunities and products delayed? And again, your life cycle. Will your life cycle be extended from the inability to upgrade? Lots of things to consider. But I put this list together because it's kinds of things that you can actually calculate the cost when you're trying to justify an upgrade to your management. Okay, and this chart I put together pretty interesting. It's more about procurement, but how high-performing companies can deliver 5 times the impact on average than a regular one. It comes from Accenture, and if you look at spend managed, regular companies are getting about 51% spend managed. High-performing companies get about 93%. High-performing companies get 12.8% savings, while mediocre companies get 7.7%. In terms of percent savings, 61% versus 89%. Bottom line impact, $5.5 million versus $28 million. All right, and this was a illustrative of services company with $1 billion revenue and $200 million in direct spend. So that's just kind of what are you losing if you stay on the front end of that scale? if you're only managing 51% of your spend and you're generating $5.5 million. Now, your company may think that's a good performance, but when you compare it to 93% of the spend and $28 million in savings, bottom line impact, that's pretty significant. So those are the kinds of arguments you have to bring forth when you're trying to get your system in and you're getting resistance from stakeholders and management. So here we're at a point where I want to kind of summarize and then take some questions if we have them. The delaying software upgrades can really impact performance. All right, it can impact profitability. It can delay opportunities for savings because you can't even find it. You don't have the analytics to tell you what your spend is, or you're not linked across the globe, or you have some businesses on smaller systems or PC-based and other systems on other parts of the system on ERPs. You're losing opportunities because you can't find them. Continue to drive efficiency and lost productivity. You'll continue to be inefficient as long as you don't have a streamlined system that's somewhat automated. You can do it P2P, has supplier enablement. It'll cost you more in the long run to upgrade if you don't do it. You don't really want spreadsheet run analytics. I mean, while it's good to have that, the analytics ought to all come off the same database. And you want to promote, objective decisions and not subjective. Looks like they made a mistake in that bullet, but you want objective decisions. You want to use database and fact-based information. You don't want to fail to create the linkages because you can. Delaying it will promote subjective decisions, and it will create supplier linkages, and it will fail to take advantage of new technology like Bitcoin, coin, dynamic pricing terms, and a whole bunch of things that are available now and yet to be invented. So I don't think you ever want to be behind in your systems, especially as we start to approach digital technology. And I think the longer you wait, the more it'll cost you. So that's a good summary. And I want to move on to questions. I have one question. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, as we do that, we'll start in with those questions in just a moment, but a quick reminder to our audience. On the right-hand side of the slides, you'll see the Q&A box. Simply type your questions into that space, and those questions are then available for the presentation team to review. And with that, let me start in with the first of the questions. On your PowerPoint, page 2, okay. Procurement Industry Evolution, you mentioned value management. Could you please introduce more about what is value management and what is the differentiation with current category management?
Oh, I certainly can. I mean, as one of the things that we've done as procurement is we've gotten very, very good at building cost models, should cost models, understanding the margin of our suppliers, and we've been working at that for at least a decade. We're working at driving the cost, driving the material, the labor, the overhead, looking at services, whether if you're in indirect. And when you start to look at it and you've really done a great job in a consolidated industry, you got to look for other areas that you're going to get cost improvements. So what I think are the kinds of values you get is if you can move a product to market faster. If you're in the cell phone business or the pharmaceutical business, if you can work with suppliers and speed up the cycle time and deliver speed to market, you'd be the first one in the drug with in the drugs. If you're in the pharmaceutical industry and you get an FDA approval and patents, you win the game. Apple was the first in the phone business, and they had speed to market and supplier collaboration. So speed to market is one of those things that would be important. Suppliers bringing innovation in, changing specifications, driving, they all result in cost savings, but we want, changes in specification. We want innovation. We want things like, market together. We want the suppliers working with us to help us build new products that give us revenue growth and bring in new technologies that give us revenue growth. So it's really searching for value, more and more value from that supplier. And you can calculate, a lot of times it's hard to calculate the value, but it's going to be the value that brings you competitive advantage. So when I sit with CEOs, they care about, here's a couple great examples of that. All right, so if I worked in the glass industry, and you can you can go ahead and you can. They have to, from time to time, they have to rebuild their furnaces. And when they rebuild that furnace, it probably costs them $15 or $20 million of downtime. Right, so you can get a couple dollars off of the refractory bricks while you're rebuilding, or you can get the suppliers to generate a brick that lasts a year longer. A year longer is going to delay a $20 million expenditure. Right, so I think that's more important. The total cost of ownership becomes more important than the few dollars. I work in the home building industry, and of course you can get some money out of the house, but it's more important that you close the house and return on your capital than it is to delay the closing and get a few dollars off of the material. So I think you have to really understand that value is a contributor to everything you do. And you can contribute a lot of revenue generation to the business from the value.
And our next question, when these significant upgrades are in place, where does it leave the value and future value of procurement individuals?
That's really a great question. I think one of the things that's to keep in mind is, I don't know that how much value we really give when we're focused on tactical and actual activity, but I do know that when we're involved in strategic supplier relationship management, and we're collaborating across a network of suppliers, and we're bringing forth a new product across a network that's really coming in that gives us competitive advantage, we have more value to the company. If we are able to build supplier networks that are highly competitive, generating speed to market, generating efficiency, bringing quality together, we're much more valuable to our company. So, rather than working on one network, I think we're going to be looking strategically long-term at building these supply chains, working with the supply chain on corporate social responsibility, managing cybersecurity across the supply chain, managing relationships across that supply chain that continue to bring value to the chain, is where I see the value of procurement long term. So I think the job is really going to change from being very, very tactical to being a relationship manager, managing strategically, incorporating a supply chain, driving that supply chain to the next level, getting compliance. So it's going to be a much more strategic job in the future, and you got to have systems that work to make that job work.
And in relation to procurement, what systems do you recommend in measuring indirect procurement items?
That's a tough one, because on indirect, you got a bunch of varied programs. I know there's lots of software companies that do a good job with indirect in terms of bringing them together, driving the categories, and helping you build a category management process for the indirect side. I know Zycus has the capability to do that in good expenditures, and I know there's a lot of others. But I don't really recommend systems, but I think any system that's going to let you get a deep dive in expenditure and find all the expenditure, that's going to enable you to have a great purchase to pay process, going to let you do global sourcing on some of the indirects and local sourcing on others, is going to be able to help you.
And next up, in cases where businesses face cost constraints, where do you suggest a company should prioritize in terms of system upgrades? Would it be data management or something different?
Well, I think it's going to be in it's going to be in the linkages to the supply base that help you. For one, you're going to have the analytics that tell you, what are you buying, and then second, you're going to have the processes that are going to help you buy them better. So things like auctions and e-procurement are going to help you buy them better. P2P systems are going to make you more efficient, and then supplier enablement is going to be able to link the suppliers into you as well. So I think that you have to take a holistic look. Data management is going to be one piece of it, but I think it's all of those things working together are going to make you efficient.
And next up, what new developments or capabilities do you see on the horizon for procurement? I know you've mentioned some, for example, like AI, but everyone claims to have one, but is it still a distant dream, or are there any immediate updates?
I had the opportunity to talk to a couple of people that were working on AI, and it's still in its test platform. I think there's a couple things that are kind of interesting. I know that there's a group that recently built a bot to go out and check pricing and go to do things. I think it's in an early stage, but I don't think it's that far away. I think you're looking at probably 5 years before we're starting to see some AI that's able to search the internet, find things, help us do RFIs, help us put things together. And I know a guy named Joe Ukora, who I've known for a long time, is working on it with some of the major universities, and there's quite a few other people working on it as well. So I don't think it's as far away. I think that the kinds of things that it would be able to do is help us on, particularly on the indirect side. If you envision being able to search every supplier across the globe on the internet, finding suppliers to meet your business needs, then tailoring them down, doing an RFI, and then driving that RFI to an RFP, and then making a recommendation for some buyer to look at and decide what's the best technology. And with the learning of business requirements and everything else, I don't think it's all that far away. I think there are people that are starting to use it. I know that in one workshop, one group built a bot that was able to do some of that stuff coming out of the workshop, which I thought was pretty good. The thing, if you think about the bots, that's an interesting thing, because I worry about, who am I talking to? What am I talking to? And then the other thing I worry about is, dynamic pricing, because you've got bots talking to bots. And, I think the best, they can search the internet and see when the competitors change the price at the same time. And so we're starting to see a lot of collaboration in terms of the supplier side, working on pricing, finding their suppliers and keeping up with their competitors' pricing. And the airlines are probably one of the better examples of, the ability to capture data and change instantly to meet market demands. And I think that might put some of the buyers at a competitive disadvantage, but I think it's not as far as you think. I think some of it's coming together, and we're starting to see some of it now.
Next up, talking about moving to procurement solutions, how well do they talk with or integrate with our current ERP setups?
Well, I think some of the cloud solutions are great. I know that I do talk to the Zycus people, and I know that they're able to, on a cloud solution, build a full integrated current procurement system and then integrate right down to all the major ERP systems. So, and I know that there's a lot of other companies that can do that too. So I think right now that's the way that most companies are going. You can't change the legacy system, and it's going to cost you too much and be too difficult to change. But it's a lot easier to take that as a standalone system, run it separately, and then drive all the data down into the ERP, so that the ERP is loaded with the right system, but it's loaded from the cloud system. So I think that's something you should, if you have a question, it would be good to talk to someone at Zycus that can probably talk to you how that works and what that integration looks like. And I know anybody can probably do that.
Don't have any other questions, so at this point I will turn it over to you, Bill, for your closing comments.
Okay. Well, I think that this is a great area. I think it's an area that we all really need to start thinking about. And if your company's starting to delay it, I hope I've given you some data that will help you understand, exactly what to do. I'm going to do, Zycus has asked me to do office hours on August 10th at 11 Eastern, which is, I'll be available to answer questions or provide information to anybody that wants to call in on the office hours. And so you'll get more information as we move forward to that. And the other thing I want to advise everybody about, I speak at this conference and have spoken at this conference for quite a while. It's called the Zycus Horizon Conference. I'm really amazed because Zycus gets the leaders in procurement to come to this conference. There's a lot of opportunity to meet the leaders in procurement across the globe. It's always an exciting program, and this year it's going to be, I think, in New Orleans, right? Yeah, New Orleans. And so I'll be there speaking, and a lot of other people too. And I encourage people to look at Horizon, and it's a must attend. And if you want to know more about systems and how they work, and how it impacts procurement, and even more about the procurement, how procurement's changing, this would be a good place to go. So I'm going to be there, and I recommend it. So I've gone quite a bit in my career, and so it's probably 200 procurement people, and it's really a lot of learning. So I encourage everybody to go. Right. So you can catch up with me anytime, and the office hours will be around then.
All right. Thank you so much, Bill. And on behalf of the Institute for Supply Management and Zycus, I would like to thank you, our audience, for your participation in today's event. This does conclude today's program. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of your day.